Animals being my partner for 20 years, nobody's accomplished that in the history of wrestling before. 20 years is a long time to be together. We're still young men, and we're still in great shape. You can just take a look. We're in shape. And Animal's a bigger guy than I am. Well, Ole Anderson, who gave Animal his first break as the original Road Warrior and then brought me in, saw the movie Road Warrior, I should say, with Mel Gibson, and we just added an S to it. Therefore, we were very smart right away. We patented that name. And he came up with the name Hawk and Animal. I wanted Guido. It turned out to be Hawk was better. And we came up with the haircuts. That was my ideas. Where Animal have hair, I shouldn't. And where I do have hair, he should. And so we could plug our heads in like a unit. And the paint was his idea because it was off the movie. And things just clicked for us right after that. I think that my early struggles came with all the demand of the road, 250 days a year and 400 flights, and then coming home and trying to fit in normally, and I don't think it was possible for somebody when it was happening to me so fast, that became unstable. As far as breaking in, Eddie Sharkey broke in, Jesse Ventura and Bob Backlund broke us in, but he broke us in on a boxing ring, which is about as hard as the wood floor that we're on right now. So, he wasn't much of a show. I mean, he taught me nothing about a lot of things that I needed to know. He taught me how to take a bump. That's what he taught me how to do. We used to beat the crap out of each other. It was me and Animal, Barry Darso, who was one of the Demolition, and Rick Rude in the first school. And 4 tough guys are pounding on the crap out of each other all the time. Paul is very responsible for getting us to where we were head-wise. He was our guardian angel. When we broke in, we were green as green could be. He was real smart. He turned the tables right around on them promoters. He was great. Real manager. The 4 horsemen were really, really responsible for a lot of our success. That'd be Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and then several others, Lex Luger at one time, and there were others that were in there at the time, Ole Anderson even. Along with Rick Rude, rest his soul, and Manny Fernandez. They did well with us. Midnight Express did great with us. We were lucky we had a lot of talented people to work with right off the bat. Ole Anderson told us, you guys don't know how to wrestle guys, so just beat them up. It's because, if they don't want to come back next week, we'll have somebody else. So, we didn't really know we did. We tried not to hurt him as much as we did, but I'm sure there were some guys that got hurt. But we really didn't mean to do that. We just didn't know what we were doing. Power. All we did was power moves. And that's what we still do. We still do the press slams, still do the power slams, still do the flying tackles, the one-handed fist drop, the doomsday device off the top. It's all hardcore. We don't do anything that's light and easy. Even our clotheslines are pretty good. Pretty good if you're me or Animal. But I mean, we've worked hard. We work hard. I had my left shoulder separated twice. I had my cells on my left side. My left leg was broken twice. Once the fibula, which is nothing, then the bigger bone, that was something. And I never did another backdrop since, and you'll never see me do another backdrop. And that's about it for me. I've broken some ribs a few times. That's about it. I think the thing that means the most is nobody can duplicate what we've done because we won the WWF twice. We won the NWA twice, the WCW twice, the AWF once, the New Japan twice, All Japan twice, NWA twice, WCW, did I already say that? I mean, we've just been that lucky that people ran the ball, let us run with the ball. We just did a pay-per-view that was June 22nd at in Atlantic City Outdoors minor league baseball stadium. We're doing cartoons, voiceover work. I'm interested in radio. There's all sorts of things, all sorts of irons in the fire.
Speaking of what we'll do to our opponents, me and Animal are quite fond of the medulla oblongata, which is the brainstem, which controls all your bodily functions, which means after we rip it out, you're going to be wearing Depends for the rest of your life.
Hawk and I, pretty much as kids, were always nicknames were Animal and Hawk. We've known each other since we were 8 years old, and we decided to get into the sport of professional wrestling. We wanted to do something that was kind of a motto of one of our favorite movies was The Road Warrior. That was one of our favorite movies. And we said, you know, everybody's always in typical wrestling tights and this and that in wrestling. I said, what can we do to change our gimmick? And Hawk says, hey, I got it. Animal, why don't you have a regular mohawk and I'll have a double mohawk, so it looks like we plug into each other, you know. So that's that's how the haircuts came about. Our style is 110% nonstop. Go at them. We come at you hard. We hit you hard. We want you to hit us hard back. My favorite move, and I was known to do it throughout time, was press slam. Before a top rope broke one time and it landed on my shoulder and I dislocated it in the middle of a match. I had my manager yank it out and put it back in place. But I press slam. I was known to press slam all the big guys. I press slam Killer Khan, who was 330 pounds, over my head for 3 repetitions. I did Terry Gordy, who was 300 pounds. I was the guy that was known. I pressed Hulk Hogan in Japan when Hulk was 325. I was the only guy ever to press Hulk Hogan. We were the only guys ever to press Crusher and Bruiser, who were in the wrestling business phenoms, never went off their feet for 15, 20 years, and we press slammed both of them at the end of their career. I think wrestling fans, when I talk to a lot of wrestling fans around the country, as far as going as a most favorable match or most memorable match they have of us, usually the War Games scenarios come about, which are 2 rings inside of a giant cage, and you have to, you know, and one of our my patented moves and my partner's was to dive across both rings and give a guy a flying shoulder tackle. The worst injury that I had in this wrestling business was I had orbital rim surgery. A guy landed on my head in the ring, a guy named the Warlord, big guy, he's from Minnesota too. He landed on my head in such a way that my eye had popped out and had popped back in, but when I went in too far, my orbit was totally shattered. It went in too deep, so they had to pull it back out to its original spot, and they operated through my mouth and through my natural crease on my eye, so there was no scarring. But it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. The Japan ones were pretty special to win on a belt in another country. I think winning our first world championship was pretty hot itself. I mean, that was pretty special. You know, here you are in a business that you look, and I watched at the time, and I watched Hulk Hogan, and I watched, you know, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and I watched all these guys flying, and I said, man, here I go in my first tournament, and Hawk and I win the belts. So we right away went from zeros to all of a sudden now we're the top tag team in the business, and we have been for the last how many years? 18 years. You know, everybody's trying to emulate us. There's been many of imitators, no duplicators. If you want to get in wrestling business, I'd advise you to be in tip-top shape. I advise you to be in the best shape of your life. I'd advise you to shut your mouth and listen. Become a student of this business right away, because that's the only way you're going to succeed. Listen to the guys that have got experience and be very respectful. Don't think just because you worked out and you were a UFC champion or you were a national karate champion that you come in and deserve to be a wrestling champion. Because there's a lot of guys in the wrestling. There's a lot of tough guys in this business. There's a lot of great guys in this business. But it's very much a pecking order and very much a respect thing. If you go in the wrestling business and think you know it all right away, you're going to get shot down right away. You're never going to get a break. So respect and attitude is number one. You got to be patient too, because it's not going to come the next day you get in. Just don't think because you work out and you go through a wrestling camp that you deserve to be the world champ the next day. I mean, timing, charisma, everything, being able to stand there and just like Hawk and I were able to do and just look at the people like this and get a reaction out of them. Or like Hogan when he waves his hand and does the thing to the ear and get people to cheer, doesn't come to everybody. Or Rock raising his eyebrow, you know, that doesn't come to everybody. That comes to few and far between. That's why only a few guys make it to the legend status in professional wrestling. When our career is at its end, or when the fat lady sings, as everybody else says, you know, it's all over when the fat lady sings, I hope that we will be remembered as the greatest tag team of all time. Let me tell you something right now. I'm the Animal, my partner, the Hawk. We're not some Johnny-come-lately in the sport of professional wrestling. If you think you're going to get in the ring on your first wrestling match and try to make a name for yourself and come try to beat us, you got another thing to think about, pal. We are the Road Warriors. We are the Legion of Doom. We've been the best tag team in the history of professional wrestling, and we're not handing that up to anybody. That's what I'd say to my opponent.
That was awesome.
You know, the wrestling business, when I got in, we kind of changed the face of wrestling. We were the first guys. I mean, I was 300 pounds. My partner was 270 pounds at the time, and you know, that were doing things that 180-pound guys were doing. That was a struggle in itself because nobody wanted to do the moves that we wanted to do because we were bigger guys doing them. We've been really blessed in this wrestling business. Hawk and I have achieved things that no other team will ever achieve in the history of professional wrestling, because on the way of everything is going today, from airlines all grouping together, going under one umbrella, to wrestling businesses are going under 1 to 2 companies, you will not have 15 to 20 wrestling promotions again anymore. We've won almost, with the exception of maybe one, every title possible that you could win in tag team wrestling, Hawk and I have won. We were Tag Team of the Decade. We were voted Tag Team of the Year 7 of the first 10 years we were in wrestling. We just recently got voted Tag Team of the Century about a year ago. So we've had a very good, prosperous career. And we are proud to say nobody will ever be able to achieve and win the awards we won. Without a doubt, the 4 horsemen with Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson, and J.J. Dillon, the manager, they gave us our most memorable matches we've ever had. They did more for our career than anybody did in the history of professional wrestling. Every time you wrestle another top guy or a famous star in this wrestling business, you learn something. This is the kind of business that if you think you learned everything in the first year, you might as well get out because there's nothing else for you to do. Well, my best partner is my partner, the Hawk. I mean, Hawk's been my partner for my whole career, and I wouldn't think of myself, couldn't even imagine myself with any other partner besides Hawk. In this business, it's hard because you put 110% into every match. There's certain guys you like to work with more than others, but every match is a special match, and everyone's got its own significant moment, whether it's something that causes you to laugh or you do a great move or whatever it is. Cooperation is the number one thing that makes an opponent a good opponent or someone great to work with. When a guy is willing to do, you got a common goal to make entertainment for the people. When you are willing to, each of you, to sacrifice your body and trust that in that other person's hands, that makes a guy a great opponent to work with. If I knew somebody would want to get into professional wrestling, I'd tell them to think long and hard before about making this decision. Today, the wrestling business is totally different than getting in when I got into it. Today, they're going to send you to developmental camps. You may go and be in a developmental area for 5 or 10 years before you even get a break. Hawk and I went through a camp, sort of a camp here in Minneapolis with a guy named Ed Sharkey. Ed Sharkey was the same guy that taught Jesse Ventura how to wrestle. We were all big guys that went through the camp, and Ed really didn't want to get in the ring with us too much because we were too big. Well, Hawk and I still wrestle now. We one of the few guys that, what we did in our wrestling careers, we never got burnt out in one area too much. We would stay in an area for 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and then we would go to Japan for 2 years and come back, go somewhere else for 2 years, and then back to the Orient, and back and forth and back and forth. We wrestle now. Like I said, we just won the IWS International Wrestling Superstars Championship. We plan to take that around the world and defend those belts, I should say. I'm involved heavily in coaching in the area that I am at here in Wayzata, Minnesota. I do football. I've done football, hockey, baseball. I've done them for baseball for 14 years here with my oldest son through, and now my other boy is getting to an age where I don't need to coach him anymore. He'll be in high school for Wayzata, which is a great program. And my daughter, I coach her in softball now, and this will probably be my last year because she's getting to the stage where she doesn't need me to do it anymore. She's someone else to coach her. So I'm blessed in that respect because I've always given back to the community. I like giving back to the community like that. I like being part of helping kids learn. I own a gym here. Hawk and I own a gym with a guy named Jim Younger called The Gym in Minnesota and Plymouth. And we help train people, and I do a lot of youth sports training, and a lot of my son's friends, when they need help, they come to me and I ask them questions on training, and I answer them for them, and I take care of things for it. So I'm involved in the community in that aspect. And when I'm done wrestling, I hope to be a full-time coach somewhere. I mean, I know sports. I know the sport of baseball. I know the sport of football really well, and I'd love to be a college coach someday, or even a pro coach, to be honest with you. That's what I love to do. Well, they always say it's never over until the fat lady sings. And when she does finally sing for me and for my partner, I hope that we were remembered in this wrestling business as, which I think we have achieved today, as the greatest tag team that has ever faced any opponent in the history of the professional wrestling business.